All right. Should we go for it?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, hi, I'm Sarah. My background is working at Asana and Dropbox, and then I've spent the last couple of years working in AI. And I just love building stuff with AI. So I'm really excited to show some of that to everybody. And Austin and I have been working together on some of this stuff. So Austin's got a lot of good insights that he's going to share as part of this.
100%. And for folks who don't know me, I'm Austin, co-founder and CEO here at Unify, and excited to chat. Today's actually gonna be a lot less about our product and things like that, and a lot more about how we actually think about applying AI within the company, which I think is equally as important as the product you're building today.
Awesome. All right. So we're getting stuck on the lattice.com homepage. But what I wanted to give everybody was if you load this QR code right here, you can download the homepage roaster. And so that can be a skill you can add to your Claude instance. And it's got instructions for how to add it to your Claude chat. It's just as easy as adding it to Cowork and to your Claude code. But it's going to run this skill that hopefully works as long as companies like landing pages actually have some kind of image. Um, but I think this is like a fun one because, as I mentioned when we were first kicking off, it's got some structure, but it adds some fun. And so if you actually go to the GitHub page that I've sent you to, and this is what a skill really looks like. I find a lot of people say things like, oh, you can build it into a skill, like it's some sort of strange mystery of like what that is. But when you go to a skill in GitHub, it just has a couple simple components. There's like the skill itself, there's a license, there's a bit of a README about what it does. But a skill is really just a bunch of instructions for Claude to tell it how to do a specific thing, right? So in the case of the homepage roaster, it tells it to load the homepage, to go through and do that, identify the competitors, and then it tells it how to assess each of these dimensions, right? And so I just want to demystify that like you have to be really advanced at Claude to build a Claude skill. Because the reality is, once you know how to do something and you tell Claude how to do it, it can build a skill just like this. And you can also easily install skills like this one that I've built. And you can use them to do kind of cool work. And you can also customize them. So the license for this lets you take it and customize it and make it your own. And so you can run it on a lot of different like websites and see what kind of insights you can get. And you can say, actually, I don't agree with Sarah. I don't think that the competitor stealing dimension is the most important. I want to substitute in something else. So Claude will just do that for you, and that's really easy and fun to do. So that's like my intro skill. So check it out and download it and start playing with it, and you should be able to use it right away. And you can feel to let us know any comments. All right. So what we wanted to talk about today is like AI vibe coding for marketing. And so I wanted to kick it off, and Austin and I were like chatting about this before the meeting, just to chat about like, hey, look, where do we find that AI is really helpful for marketing specifically versus not? Because I think that's a good framework to figure out like what should you be doing before you get going. And so I'll give you my thoughts, and then Austin, you can chime in because I know you've been doing so much work here too. But the first one is I love Claude for quant analysis. At the end of this webinar, we're going to show how you can use Claude to build Python scripts to analyze SEM. And I think that's a huge place where you can do advanced analysis that wouldn't have been possible before, or that you'd need like entire analysts to be able to sit and do. And then the next one is working with unstructured data. And like this is a joke that I always tell people. Like I got this hat from a startup called Lightfield that says like ever since I was a young child, I dreamed of turning unstructured into structured data. Like okay, it's a kind of a stupid joke, but the reality is, especially as a marketer, most of your data is unstructured. Like every sales call that's ever happened, all of the content that you get from customer insights research. It used to be you'd have to read it through, take hours to synthesize, figure out the patterns, and now all of that data is just available for you. And so there's a huge amount of power that can come from like taking all that data in and just finding patterns, finding insights for product, finding patterns in what sales needs for marketing. Those things can also really surface like what it is that you want to and can do. And then another thing we're going to show today is how do you get to fast MVPs and build and launch experiments. So we're going to be doing a lovable vibe coding exercise where we show how you can build a landing page that's actually pretty functional for calculations relatively quickly. And then my last favorite one is as a brainstorming partner. I still think people are the very best brainstorming partners, but if you're alone or if you're looking for some thought starters or if you're stuck, AI can be great at generating long lists. Now it'll give you 100 ideas, 90 of which are crap, but like 10 of them will be good or at least interesting or at least send you in a different direction. And so that's like really helpful in marketing because it really is an ideas game. And then what I think it's not particularly good at is what to do, like setting the strategy of like what kinds of things are worth doing. Should you even do an MVP in the first place? I think it has terrible thought leadership. You can tell it from a mile away when it comes through if someone's just like, and that's the whole thing. You know, it's not just it's this, it's that. Like that stuff, it just doesn't break through the noise. And then I think copy, as marketers, you're trying to write a lot of stuff that hits people psychologically in just the right way, right? It compels action, it makes them interested, it makes them want to buy. And by the way, that's all happening in 12 words or less. AI is just not good at that because it's not good at the psychology. And then it also just doesn't know when it's good enough. It'll say, like, oh, this is done, ship it. I don't know, Austin, if you see this. Claude will be like, you're done. Just ship this now. I'm like, what are you talking about, Claude? This is not done. But anyway, Austin, what are your thoughts on like where you use AI now?
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of those points. I think where it's not good is it doesn't have the level of taste and like care that like somebody who's good at marketing does, right? And so I've written on LinkedIn for the past couple of years, and never once have we just like taken a post that came out of AI because it's just not good enough. It's not interesting. It doesn't understand like what's happening in the zeitgeist right now and like how people are feeling about things. And I'm not confident that it's going to take a lot to get there still. And so that's definitely an area where I don't personally get any leverage out of it. But on the other side, I totally agree with a lot of the themes you called out. As an example, some things that we do internally is we actually run a agent every week via Claude that goes through every call recording and distills like who are the key competitors that we're seeing, what's the frequency in which we're seeing them, how are they being mentioned, and we actually can plot that over time really easily. So we can see like, okay, like actually this person's coming up a lot more now. We can understand that and understand that, okay, how does that back into how we think about enablement, training the sellers, all that good stuff. Or even something as simple as like Quentin built this agent that on a weekly schedule analyzes our website traffic by channel, summarizes insights, breaks down learnings, all this sort of stuff that historically you would have to have like a dashboard that a human looks at and sort of reads out to the team. And now it's just like this thing that just runs on a cron job week by week. And it's really helpful, right? And it's just another thing that we don't have to think about as a team anymore. And we can just go look at the insights rather than doing the work around it. So a bunch of ways like that. But I'd say like just like sprinkling in and thinking about like, okay, is this repetitive? Is this kind of boring? Like that's something that the products are probably pretty good at automating at this point.
Awesome. All right. And so today we're going to dive into a couple of the really good use cases. We're going to go through a beginner use case. I'm going to showcase one of my favorite marketing AI tools, which is Genspark. Then we'll go through an intermediate use case, which is we will live vibe code with Lovable a landing page for a new campaign that Quentin and I came up with to build an ROI calculator for Unify. So we're going to put 15 minutes into that and see what we can get out of it. And then I'm going to show you how to do an advanced use case of analyzing SEM with Python, which is generally like what are the prompts you can use to build this and do it and run it for yourself. And if you build it the way we've shown, you can save, hundreds of thousands of dollars on your SEM and find massive, opportunities to optimize. And then at the end, Austin and I are both going to chat about how do you come up with ideas, right? Because I think the biggest challenge with AI is like, what should you build? What's worth your time and effort to make happen? And so that's kind of our agenda for today. And feel free to let us know in the chat, like anything here that would be good to add. And feel free to keep adding comments to like as we go through each area. What are your questions? What are your ideas? I'm definitely going to use some of your insights when we build the Lovable app.
Excited to dive into all these sort of things too. And sorry, I feel like going through our own sort of journey internally of like using these products over the past few months, I think this is just like generally like a lot of anxiety today in using these products, and people feel behind generally of like, what should I be doing? How should this all work? My just like broader advice for people too is just like start trying small things, right? Like don't force yourself to like dive into some crazy complicated use case. Start with, running some chats in Claude and then move into building your first skill. And like, I think it's just about trying things today. And it doesn't need to be perfect, but the intuition is built from trying the things, not from like reading about them, as a third party. So that's what I found personally for just like thinking about the space.
And I totally want to add to that, Austin, that I think having fun and being a little bit silly makes it easier to learn things that are hard, right? Like if you're really serious and you're like, I've got to do this thing for work, it's got to be perfect. I've got to like one shot it and get it done in the next hour. You don't have the mental space to really like explore and play and figure out what works and what doesn't. And so the lovable example we're going to do, I'm going to show you you can bring some like silliness and play into what you're doing. In part because it opens up your mind to like, wow, I could do these things. This could be more fun. And so I think that's like a good approach to bring to everything that you do in this space.
Totally.
All right. So the first tool I'm going to showcase that I think is criminally underknown in the United States, but it's well known in Asia, is Genspark. And so if you look right here, this QR code will take you to genspark.ai, which is a tool I'm about to showcase. I think this tool is just like killer, particularly for marketing. And I think it's really good in a couple different ways. It's really good at multimodal work. So it can look at like text, it can look at videos, it can understand all different kinds of content. It's good at understanding narratives, it's good at understanding competitive analysis. But you don't have to take my word for it. I'm going to show you how it works and what it does. And then Austin, I think we'll chat a little bit about like what makes it so cool and such an interesting tool to use in today's environment. Okay. So let's give an example of multimodal work. What do I mean by multimodal? It's like looking at videos, looking at content, looking at text, and then synthesizing and bringing that together into insights. So here's an example. We want to understand how Sam Altman and Dario Amodei's visions about the future of AI are comparing, right? And normally, if you put this into Claude, it's going to do writing. It's going to bring up like Machines of Love and Grace by Dario, right? But that's like a little bit old now. So I want it to look at their recent podcasts and media appearances, not just essays and tweets. So I'm pointing it at like, look at the broader ecosystem. And this is really relevant in the AI world because I think a lot of people use their most interesting, most complex ideas show up on podcasts, and it's very fresh and recent. Okay, so Genspark is just like a chat bot, like everything else. But I've put in this prompt that I showed you guys over there, and I pre-ran it because it can take a minute or two to run. But what it does first is it's running through different types of tools, and it's showing you what it does. And this is what we mean by saying like it's very agentic. It's figured out, given the question that I had, what type of tools does it need to use to solve those problems? And then it doesn't ask me what tools to use. It goes ahead and it says like, wow, I need to search. I need to look at like what Sam Altman's recent podcasts are. And so it goes through and it like literally looks up and this man must do nothing but podcasts based on how many there are here. Like, look at this. This is pretty impressive. And then it goes through Dario's as well and it's pulled all of these up, right? And after it comes through all of these, it's got to the conclusion, I've got to find these videos in depth. So it pulls up all the videos. And actually, if you click on these, I love this. It'll actually like let you open it on YouTube and then play it. So you can actually see that there. And I like that because you can like actually see the source material that it was referencing. All right, and then it runs this cool tool called Understand Videos. And this is something that's very different than what you see in like Claude or somewhere else. It actually goes to the videos. It uses these YouTube codes that like identify what videos it is. And then it goes through it and says like, what's the summary? And it actually transcribes and gets answers to some of these questions from the videos. So it's not just guessing what's in it. It's not just looking at the description in YouTube. It's actually understanding the videos. And so out of this, it comes up with a short version and does like a really great synthesis of what all of that content shows and has in it. And I think this is great as a marketer. It's also great in sales, right? If you're going to meet with someone, meet with a founder or someone who has like a lot of ideas that have been shared places like this, you can use this to get smart about them and what's going on. And it gives you different, deeper stuff than Claude. And so you seem much better researched and much more knowledgeable. So that's my first example of what GenSpark's really good at. All right, let's go to the next one. Narrative research. This one I like a lot for like the comm space. And so Austin, I did this one on you. So I said like there's a lot of talk about sales and AI, and I'm helping Austin prep for an upcoming podcast appearance, right? So what stories are happening? Like let's assume Austin wants to break through. There's so much blah 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 about sales. How is he going to be someone who can really, sound like he knows what's going on, but also build on those favorable stories that are going to lift Unify? And how's he going to push back on the ones that don't favor what he wants to do, right? And so I ran this one, and it's great. They actually pulled up Austin's videos too to research who is this guy Austin, what kinds of things does he talk about. And on top of Austin, it actually read a lot of content about what's going on in sales right now. It's pulling in screenshots. It's saying like, what are buyers saying about this? Like it actually did this as part of answering the question on its own. Like this is an incredible amount of research on sales. It also understood the key videos that Austin was in, went through more, and then it said it had to summarize large documents. It's like, I've got so much stuff now. What's important? All right, Austin, you're gonna like help us. pressure test this. This is what it says the story is. So like sales is becoming a human plus AI story, and it's gotten rid of that story, I think from like a year or two ago, where it's like AI is going to replace sales, you know? But AI should absorb this research, administration. I don't know. What are your first thoughts on like what it's come back with here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's right. Like, if I were to try to make that really interesting for me, I probably would add a little bit of a different spin to it, which is that, like, hey, the best sellers, how they're thinking about using AI to get leverage, and that AI is selling is inherently a human to human thing, and that's not going anywhere. But I think that a broader idea of like AI now being table stakes and it being a sales plus AI use case is totally spot on.
Awesome. And then I saw we had a question from Eric in the chat of, can you timestamp the videos? That's a great question. One really cool thing you can do with Genspark, if it's pulling in all these videos that are really interesting and relevant, you can get it to build a spreadsheet full of that data and pull in the other fields that you're interested in. So it can collect all of those videos as rows in an AI spreadsheet with all the content that you're looking for, Eric. All right. And then Kayla, okay, Kayla has a question on hallucinations, and I think this is a really good one of like, does it hallucinate? Okay, the cool thing about GenSpark that I love is it's a multi-agent system. Like, what AI does it run on? It actually pulls in all these different AIs. So it uses Haiku, it uses Sonnet, it uses Opus from Anthropic, it uses ChatGPT, but it also uses video understanding tools and things like that. And what's cool about that is it actually uses the cheaper agents when it needs the cheaper agents and the more expensive agents when it needs those. And so it's like more cost efficient. But then on top of that, Kayla, to your question about hallucinations, it actually uses the agents to check each other's work. So it pressure tests to make sure that it's not hallucinating. And I really have found that GenSpark hallucinates less than other tools while doing deeper research. But the flip side of that is it's not as good at writing. Like I still think Claude is far better at doing deep writing and thought on a topic. Um, all
One
right.
thing too, I feel like I found is that you can also just you can ask the agent, ask the model to go in and say, hey, like just point me to your source and like quote it for me. And that's a super effective way of just vetting out is it hallucinating or not. I also have found that like the model companies like know that hallucinating is a problem and everyone is sort of chipping away at it. And so every month that goes by, I trust the models more implicitly. And of course, it's going to get some things wrong, but I do think it's generally trending towards being more accurate.
And one thing I do like here too is it does show its sources. And so often if I'm doing research and it really matters, I do click on it and I read through like what is it saying and do I agree with that? Like one example is it really thinks BCG and McKinsey know a lot about what's going on, which I find funny in AI because I don't think they're like leading the way. But it'll often have that. You're like, well, is that the source I want to trust? Um, okay. So this is like a really interesting one, and Austin. This is its advice for you. I think you need to move the story. I think some of this stuff's like a little bit basic, like moving from cold outbound to warm outbound. I think that's kind of your game.
Yeah,
But yeah, top advice.
I like this. I like this.
Yeah, you can go into your next podcast and use this and give us real feedback on if GenSpark actually
See how it
knows what's going
landed.
on. Yeah, redefining sales efficiency. Okay, but I like it for this, and I still like synthesize it and pressure test it. But this is great. Like if you do any comms work, any talking points prep. Okay, next one. I do a lot of work with Rillet, and there's a couple big competitors coming up in the AI ERP space. And so I love to analyze how the different competitors are playing in that space. And I especially like to look at home pages, product pages, blogs, webinars, keynote videos, all the content that's telling you what is a company saying about itself. And so I ran that one over here. And this one is another great example of how I think this does a really different job than Claude would do. So it does again like parallel searches of all of these home pages. And while it's looking at those home pages, it also reads all these sub pages that it has there very quickly in order to have a complex point of view. It'll also take screenshots and look at the layout of the home pages if you want it to. And then it'll pull it together. And again, I think they've done a really good job of turning the information into something really digestible. Like often Claude will just give you like a 20-page text document. But here you can get comparisons of like, okay, what are people saying on their home pages? Literally, what's the quotes that are happening on the home pages that are comparing about each of these things? And then it'll go through like, what are they doing with blogs and webinars? And again, these lovely sources here that help you point at like, what are the Rillet webinars that they think are most relevant here? So again, it's great for competitive research, and you can actually set this up as like Austin said, a cron job, which is another way of saying just like a repeated task that runs on some time period. So you could say like, hey, once a week, run on all my competitor homepages and see what's been changing, and come back to me and let me know like, hey, did they update their positioning? Have they published new blogs? Are they going after SEO? Like I can see all of that, and you don't have to do the work. It'll report back to you. So this is another one of my favorite use cases.
On that point, Sarah, one of the questions that came up, how are you leveraging this, and can this be connected into Claude or other tools that you're using kind of across your stack?
Yeah, interestingly, Claude doesn't really want to connect to Genspark. I haven't actually checked to see if there's like an MCP server, but I think you'd have to set it up in Claude code. It's not like a natural connector. And I don't think Genspark's interested in that either, right? They want to pull you into their ecosystem. So what I do for this, if you want to incorporate this content, is either I'll screenshot it, or at the end of these long text answers, you can copy the whole thing and then just paste it into like a markdown document or something, and reuse it. Often I'll create markdowns and then I'll feed that into chat as like the research and context that I want to use. But really good question. Okay, so those are the main examples I have with Genspark. I just think it's a fun tool to check out, again, for marketers in particular. I think it's really, really useful. All right. So the next thing we're going to do, moving on to the intermediate part of our workshop, is we are going to build a lead magnet with Lovable. And so this is one of my favorite things to do, like in my free time. I think it's fun. And so if you don't have a Lovable subscription, I think you can use it for free. I put a code here where you get 10 additional free credits, which is enough to get started and get building. And then I've also got 1 month free here of Whisperflow, which is the audio transcription service I'm going to use while we live vibe code this page, because I find it way faster than writing, and it's a lot easier to give a lot more context and thought while you're building. So this is going to be the key things, and I'll show these again when we move to the live demo. But first, I'm going to show you how do you plan and think about what you're going to do to get started with something that you're vibe coding. Because I think it's like a misconception that vibe coding is like you just sit down and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to build. Like, let me just start talking to the machine and like see what ensues. But instead, I'm going to give you like a brief process that you can use for anything that you want to build. All right. And then we'll be doing that on Lovable, so I'll load that up. Okay. So when you're vibe coding, I think it's always useful to start with a vision. Like, what are you trying to do? Now you can do brainstorming with AI beforehand, but don't start brainstorming in your vibe coding session, right? You've got a plan. Like, what are you going to build? Think about that ahead. And so for this one, I said to Quentin, like I want to do vibe coding and ROI calculator. I think that'll be a pretty cool and very actionable use case. Can you draw me a diagram of what it would look like? And so Quentin drew this awesome diagram that uses all of this research that Unify did on where they deliver payback. And this was fantastic, but we only have 15 minutes today. And so this is very buildable with AI, but I had to simplify it so we could do a quick demo for today. So I took Quentin's beautiful hand-drawn diagram and I did my own equally beautiful version of it, but I did it digitally. So this is the page that I want to build. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna build a homepage that does an ROI calculator. It's gonna have like a logo. Like, look at this amazing design. Like, I should be a Figma designer, I think. Okay, so we got a talk to sales button because you've always got to have a CTA. You're doing this to be a lead magnet, not to be a beautiful page. Hero image, there's going to be a cool toggle that I thought about. I'm like, I want it to be a lot more fun. There's a bunch of the inputs that Quentin wanted, and then there's a headline and a bunch of detail, and then I want some customer quotes. And then at the end, I want it to be able to email results to people and have another CTA. So I'm like, this is a concept of a page. I would estimate it took me under 30 seconds. You wouldn't know this from looking at it, but it did take me less than 30 seconds to build. Okay, so this is the plan. All right, then the next thing you want to do is figure out how it's going to work. So you're not going to say to AI, you figure out the ROI on Unify, right? That does not make sense. That's not something you can delegate to AI, and you don't want it to run that stuff for you. So what we did first was Quentin gave me this awesome calculator that went with his beautiful diagram. It was 12 pages of size 12 font, of very detailed instructions. And again, we have 15 minutes today. So I told Claude, can you make this something a lot simpler that we can build for today? And it was like, sweet. Yeah, I'll just make it this like really simple calculator. And so I've got this. You can see it down here on my desktop. That's why it's here. This is the simplified Unify ROI calculator that we're going to use for today. So this is how the thing's actually going to work. All right, next, we're going to build it in chunks. So the next thing is you can't be like vibe code this whole thing all at once. It needs a little bit of focus. And so this is the order we're going to build things in. First, we're going to build this top chunk hero. Then we're going to build the quantitative calculator. Then we'll throw in the customer quotes, and then we'll do the email results and the talk to sales. All right. So let's go to the demo. And if you guys have questions, I'm watching it in the chat over here. Let's get started. All right, so with Whisperflow, I hold down the function key on my beautiful keyboard here. I'm going to hold it down. And while I do that, it just takes my voice dictation. And this is literally how I build everything, is talking to my computer in exactly the awesome voice I've been running this webinar in. So we're going to start with, okay. So I want to build a landing page for a new campaign I'm running, which is about the ROI for a tool called Unify. Their website is unifygtm.com, and you can use that for all the brand references. And the goal is to make a landing page that has an ROI calculator in it. So at first, I'm going to paste in my beautiful image of what the landing page looks like so you know what you're building. And let's start with the top chunk. So at the top, I want to put in Unify's logo in the top left. And then on the right, I want a button that says Talk to Sales. And then we're going to have a hero image. And the hero image is going to have a header 1 and a header 2 on the left side. And on the right side, we're going to have a cool hero image. And I want the header to say it's payback time. And under that, it's going to say, let's see how Unify saves you bank. And then I want a toggle button. I want a toggle button at the top that's going to toggle into fun mode. And when it goes into fun mode, you're going to change the design of the page. Okay, I think that's enough for today. Probably shouldn't put that last part in. So when it puts this in, I'm going to delete that. Okay, so literally, you can see everything I just said got dumped in here, literally verbatim the way that I said that. And I told it I'm going to give it a picture of my design. So let's go back to my picture. This is also how I build everything. I'm going to give it this like beautiful, beautiful diagram that I have. We're going to dump that into Lovable 2. Okay. All right. Let's see what it builds. So it's going to get started. Now, this step usually takes it a minute because it's going to first say, like, what is Unify? Like, where's their website? I could have given the brand kit in, but I find that makes it a bit more confused. And so it's going to just start saying, like, okay, who is Unify? Like, what is their brand look and feel? And so the first thing it's going to do is it's like researching. So it's gone to the Unify website. It's pulled up the homepage. It's looking at everything here. Okay, and so it's going to do this for a couple minutes. And so while it's doing this, I'm going to tell you ahead, it is not good at making images. So we need to make an image. And this is something where we're going to crowdsource. So I don't know, everybody in the chat, you are not contributing questions right now, but now's your opportunity. We're going to make a hero image. It's the hero image for its payback time. I need ideas on what a good hero image is. And so if the chat doesn't provide it, Quentin and Austin, you guys are going to be next. But anybody in the chat want to suggest what would be a good ROI calculator, hero image? We're not thinking boring SaaS. We're thinking something edgy, something fun, maybe something Blade Runner. I don't know. Any ideas from people? Quentin and Austin, you guys will be on deck. If not,
I do like the Blade Runner idea.
all right. What should it be? Blade Runner what?
He ate a Superman suit. I like that.
Oh, slot machine spitting out payback candy bars. All right,
Wow.
done. Okay, all right. Let's do that in Blade Runner style. Okay, so let's make an image in Nano Banana of a slot machine spitting out payback candy bars. So let's make it look like kind of like a retro 1970s Vegas slot machine. The payback candy bars are going to be made out of gold, but it's all going to be done in a little bit of like a neo-noir Blade Runner style. Can you give me like 4 options too to choose from, not just one? All right, let's see what it does. All right, and it's going to start generating this, and it always has to ask me before it generates the images because that uses a lot of credits. So it's going to take it a little bit in there, and this is how I usually roll when I'm vibe coding. So it's working now. We're going to go back over here. All right, it's still building. It's building with some Unify inspired branding. It's working on like the toggle now. All right, let's see. I don't know why it's not showing me the example. Okay, there we go. It's building some of this stuff right here. Let's see
While
what
it
it.
while it builds, I was just gonna weigh in like as someone from like the former universe before AI, like I've gone through this process of building an ROI calculator or like a revenue recovery tool, something along those lines. The flow of not only getting that data, going out to get that data, framing, building the actual calculations, and then working with a web developer to actually build it out, working with a designer to actually have that built out. It's usually months of work that is now condensed into what can be done in hours with a single resource. So it's just pretty amazing to see how much has changed.
All right, first reaction is going to be this page sucks. And that is a fine starting point. So the other thing I want to say is like when you start and you like one shot it and you're like, this is a crappy landing page. One, you're right, but two, it's very fixable. So first, what is this? This is not the Unify logo. It went to the Unify website. But let's say like, could you use the actual Unify logo? And then why is there a weird glowing green thing behind the image? Get rid of that. Make this classier. All right, we'll get it working on this. And then we're going to go back to our Blade Runner image while it updates the Unify logo up here and fix, I don't know what this is. Okay, let's go back here. It's got ideas for the neo-noir Blade Runner style Vegas slot machine, which I think we've piled a lot into this idea. And so I think it's rightly saying like, look, here's a couple different ideas. All right, we've got a dark alley jackpot, a wide cinematic Vegas scene. That's not gonna, I just know that's not gonna turn out that well. Neon casino hero shot. All right, Austin, what are your picks? What do you think we should try?
I think I like option one.
Option one. All right. Neon casino hero shot. We're gonna see what happens with that. All right. And so it's gonna start generating this in Nano Banana, which is my favorite image model to work really quickly with. All right. And then this always happens while you're like working. It just takes it a bunch of time. And so I always just switch back and forth at the things that I'm working on. Oh, look, they've got the Unify logo. They got rid of that weird, not very interesting green background that was happening there. All right. Now let's work on what I'm calling fun mode. So I think every good marketing campaign, if you just make a straight up landing page, it's not that fun. So let's work on the toggle. Oh, it has a toggle. It did put in fun mode. It's down here. Why is fun mode? Oh, suitcase versus fun mode. Okay, I don't know how I feel about that. Guys, what do you think is going to happen when we hit fun mode? Like, what do you think that Lovable thinks is fun? Let's see. Okay. This is not what I was expecting. Wow. This is okay. This is not what I was hoping for. Okay. All right. Let's give it feedback. All right. I don't know what fonts you've chosen, but these are not classy. It needs to be fun, but can you make it more like 90s retro? And let's put the toggle up next to the talk to sales button. And then get rid of those AI sparkles. Make fun mode something like a hang 10 like hand or something like that. Something that feels 90s and retro. And then I'm gonna give you a new Unify logo to use in fun mode and a new retro color palette to use then, and a hero image that's gonna change for this fun mode as well. So let's do that. And then when it changes to fun mode, can you make the background blue from the retro color palette? All right, and then guys, I have pre-prepped these. Let me tell you. You probably saw these on my desktop. Why are these hanging out here? I made a Unify roller rink logo. I did make this with Genspark, so you guys have seen how to do this. Nothing of this is a mystery. The retro color palette comes from Coolors. I don't know if you guys have ever vibe coded with Coolors, Coolors.co. They just do color palettes. They're not even an AI tool. It's just like AI. It's just color palette selections, and I chose a retro 90s one. And then I made this sweet Unify rollerblade also in Genspark. So you've seen how to do that. We'll flip back to our Genspark vibe coding image in just a second, but these were all just made with that exact prompt process that I showed. All right, so we're gonna fix fun mode. This is actually horrifying. So let's fix fun mode to make it fun and not an abomination. All right, we gotta do that. And meanwhile, let's go look for the retro slot machine. Okay, Austin, is this what you were hoping for?
It's something. It's definitely something.
All right. Okay, we're gonna save this image. We're gonna open it. We want it in full size. This image needs to be saved. Okay, we're gonna call this like slot machine. We're gonna put it on my desktop. All right. And then we're going to need that for Unify. So one other trick I use when I'm working with Unify, or not Unify, when I'm working with Lovable, is I am impatient. And so it's like you can't add stuff. And I'm like, I know, but I'm going to still prep my next prompt to go out. So we're going to use the slot machine and we're going to tell it what to do. And we're just going to get ready to run that. Oh, I'm going to turn this off. It's actually like horrifying me. Okay. All right, so let's add this new hero image to the normal Unify landing page. And then once we add this, let's move to the ROI calculator section. So I'm going to give you a screenshot of the general look of that section. But generally, what I want it to be is like on the left, we're going to have a sticky section that's like one box that allows toggles to go in for different settings in the calculator. And then on the right, you're going to have the outputs all in one box. And then I'm going to input into this chat the way that that calculator works so you can use that to figure out what exact fields you need. Okay, so see, it's finishing this section, but I have the next prompt already ready. So we've got the hero image that we're putting in, and we've given it instructions for the next section, and then we're going to put in this Unify ROI calculator spec that I showed you guys before. All right, so we're going to put that in. And meanwhile, oh, okay, I did change it to Sahig 10. It's not exactly what I wanted. Oh my God.
All
I don't know,
right.
Austin. Is this better? This is better.
I think it's definitely better. Yeah, I like where this is going.
I think I don't know where it got this like awesome 90s like pill format. This kind of looks like the tin can phone app that I really like. But look at this. I built this for you, Austin. You can have it ROI free.
Thank you so much.
This is the Unify roller rink logo. Okay. So this is it. Doing the fun mode. All right. Dara, thank you for calling out my Comic Sans usage in that previous one, which I think is a crime against humanity, according to the Geneva Conventions. Okay. So it's going to start building this calculator. And this is one of the more advanced steps because it's actually planning the layout of the calculator. And now I know that Claude is building capabilities to do some vibe coding, but I think Lovable has done a really good job of building like the back end for things that actually need to calculate or run. And it can also plug into Supabase if you want to use a database. One landing page I've built for a client, it uses a massive database of quotes and it pulls up random ones every time you reload the homepage. And it can do that because on the back end, Lovable uses Supabase to hold all of those quotes and all of the data associated with them and pulls them in. So that's where I think there are some advantages to building in Lovable instead of building in Claude, unless you're a real power user and you're going to connect all those tools yourself. They're actually all built in here for you to be able to use. Okay, Eric also says he's a client who vibe coded their entire website. Yeah, that's not what I would recommend. So here, Unify has like a real website that's built. This is meant to be like a landing page that you can build and get started for a quick campaign. This is not how I would recommend you build your website, right? So this is more designed for like campaigns and campaign ideas. All right. So we're going to let this keep running. Let's work on our next prompt while it's running. So the next section we're going to build is the customer quote section. Okay, so after the calculator, I want to build a customer quote section. And the customer quotes are going to be like three different customer quotes side by side. And I don't want to make up customer quotes for Unify. So can you go to the Unify website and like look for some good customer quotes? And then because this is an ROI calculator, can you look for ones that are a little bit more relevant to quantification of results from Unify? So I don't ones that are like, I'm Austin's number one fan. I want them to be like, this delivers like 14x return, or I saw payback in 2 weeks, or something like that. So pull those. And then I want it built so that it scrolls side to side. Like I want the customer quotes in. I want their photos of all of the people giving the quotes too, and I want them as like round designs, not square, because that makes it look cooler. And it should scroll side to side. I also want to point out, like, if you listen to this, I probably sound sort of crazy, but I've also worked with Lovable enough that I know that this really works. And what I like about it is you don't have to like really censor yourself while you're coming up with ideas. You're just kind of describing what you want. All right. So we're gonna load this in next, and while this loads in, we're gonna look at what it built before. Okay. Plug in your numbers. All right. If there's marketers in the audience ambitious about copy, I think we should have something better than plug in your numbers here. The math. All right. Okay. But I think in terms of the calculator, we do have like a deal size calculator here. Wow, I actually like
I
how
like
this
the animation.
the
Yeah.
animation is solid, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of cool. Okay, but Quentin, you're responsible for actually the output of this. I think it might be like slightly overshooting, but well, all right, let's leave that down there. And then I'm not sure that this is like the pricing, but it added this in here. Okay. And then this isn't persistently sticky. I told it to be sticky. All right. And then down here, it has all these different metrics though. This is kind of cool. I like these. All right. What do we think is going to happen when it goes into hang 10 mode? Let's see.
The
Okay.
number just keeps going up. Oh, wow. All
Yeah.
right. It's still the same.
Okay. Wow. This font is a particularly strong choice here. I kind of like this actually. It feels fun. All right. Pull the lever, dude. Okay. That's kind of good, although it does go with the slot machine that's in the regular page. But this is pretty good. Okay. All right. So let's load up the customer page. I don't think we're gonna have enough time to finish vibe coding the call to action at the end. But I still don't think this is like that solid, but we've only been working on this together for like 15 minutes. And I think you guys can get a sense of how it started from that like pretty crappy thing where you're like, this is not that good. It has still not replaced my image here. I'm gonna have to tell it again. But it's gotten to something that's like more solid. And it's actually building something that works. And I'll tell you, having built like the mechanics here, if you can figure out like why it's not calculating correctly, it can take that feedback really well and drive the calculation better. And so with a few more prompts, we could make this left side stay sticky. It can make this all this stuff over here like a little bit more simplified in a way that could be compelling. And at the end, you could add your call to action and then also add your like email the results to me section here as well. Okay, so here's how you can do that. I'll move on to the next section and we'll check back in with Lovable when it adds that customer section down at the bottom. But yeah, I think this is like pretty fun, pretty good to work with. It's also a good experience to just see like what you say out loud come to life. And so that's what I love Whisper Flow for. I don't just use it for Lovable. I use it for Claude. I use it for everything because when you talk, you don't censor yourself as much. I think you're more expansive, you give more context, you give more discussion and ideas, and it also lets you move a lot faster. And it also then you don't get carpal tunnel syndrome. So, okay. All right. Let me move on to my next use case. I think we're probably going to cover this in sub 10 minutes, but I think this one is more like how do you tackle ambitious work? So I'm going to show you at a high level how you do it for something like SEM. And this is a real work piece of work that I've built and run for a number of different clients, but I want to show you how you do it. Okay, any ambitious work project where you're trying to do something with real impact that has multiple steps, I always start with the same plan. The first step is researching with Claude Chat. Now, why am I not researching with Claude Code? Claude Code likes to research how to build the thing that you're trying to build. But here I want to research how to do the thing that I'm trying to do. How do you do SEM really well? So let me run through like these different steps with some examples to illustrate to you what this looks like. All right, so let's talk about researching with Claude Code. So here, I've simplified this for like an actual prompt. If you actually run this, it works. But here, you're asking for like Python scripts to analyze and optimize SEM spend. And one question is like, how do you know you need to start with Python scripts? You know, if you're analyzing a lot of data, that's one approach, but you could do another Claude chat to be like, what's the best way to analyze my SEM? All right, you give you give context. Here's how we do SEM. Is it one person? Is it no people? We only do brand right now. I don't know. And then this is the key part here, and this is how you start any complex piece of work, is you start with, can you research best practices for optimization in our situation? Not abstract optimization, right? But like in our situation, and then come up with ideas and best practices for how I can use Claude Code to do this. So you're like researching before you even start. And then I like to get it to output a couple different things. One is that research work that says, hey, here's how SEM works. Here's what data I should pull. How should I handle this noise? How should I structure the scripts? Like, give me this best practice research. And then the second thing I like to do is like, yeah, okay, just give me the prompt to dump into Claude Code. Because I'm going to just like kick that off next. Okay, so what does it do? It gives you SEM best practices and it gives you a Claude Code prompt. Like literally, this is the snake eating its own tail, right? You've got it to generate the thing that you need to do next. But this is the part where you need to be the human in the loop. Don't just dump this stuff into Claude Code. Look at this. Do you agree with the SEM best practices? Do you like, did it just pull from like weird listicles and it didn't use actual expertise? Like use your judgment on what comes back to say, is this the way that I want to do things? All right, next you're going to build it with Claude Code. So you're going to take your best practices doc, and then you're going to take the prompt that generated, which is sometimes longer. It's often longer than this, but I did this for illustration purposes. This one works too, where you say, I want to build this. I want you to find wasted spend, find optimization opportunities, and produce a report with recommendations. And I have this research on best practices and benchmarks that I'm going to give you as context. And you give that to you. to it. And then it's going to start to generate a plan and it's going to say, I need a bunch of data. You can connect it via API for SEM in particular, but that requires getting a developer API into SEM. So for quick purposes, like what you're going to do is just pull it down yourself. So pull down a bunch of these different pieces here that you're going to analyze. Okay, so then I put like run code on the day, actually run the Claude code thing. Okay, and then you've got execute the action plan. So you're gonna get the results back. And the reason this is the prompt I gave Genspark for this was like, give me a 1984 themed enthusiastic retro office. You need people to execute things. Like you don't want to just run scripts in Google Ads executing in your spend. You need people to look at the recommendations. You need people to understand which of these make sense, which are most actionable, like which you have the capability to execute on. But once you've run the whole process, you now have like fodder to have those people execute. And so I've given you this example for SEM, but this researching best practices, planning and building with Claude Code, pulling data and running, that this loop works for a lot of really complicated advanced use cases. And you can do almost anything with this meta framework. All right. Austin, do you want to talk about how we come up with like cool ideas of what to build with AI?
Yeah, 100%. So Sarah came by our office a couple weeks ago and we did a brainstorming session together on just ways that we could be betting more broadly as a team. So we covered a bunch of different parts of the business, all the channels that we run today, where we're seeing success, where we're not, and came to a bunch of ideas about where we can improve what we're doing today. So a lot of this, I think, these brainstorming pieces, you can amplify these things with AI, but I do think that a lot of the kernels of insight need to come from people still. Like it's just going to be a place that you're going to be able to get the first two or three things that are really going to help Claude get you to the 7 through 10 ideas, as an example. So this is actually a real just like photos from the work that we did together. We piggybacking off that have done a bunch of work since to put some of those ideas into practice. Some of these things were things that we had in flight. We just sort of amplified with that work, but just a couple like really pragmatic, like how is the team actually using all these ideas that we just chatted through and turning those into value for ourselves? A couple things that we're doing internally. Number one is that today we actually have an agent that for AEO and GEO. So I'm sure that most folks have heard about this, but a lot of the ways now that you're actually building brand visibility is no longer through traditional SEO, through Google, things like that, but it's actually through getting cited and annotated via products like Claude or via products like ChatGPT. There's all sorts of spaces emerging around this of how do you show up among those searches? How do you get cited often? Because it drives brand awareness and it ultimately drives value to you. So one of the things that we've done actually is taken specific searches that we do not do well on. We surface those programmatically with AI. We use a tool called Profound internally to do the analytics here. And what we do with that is then we kick off an agent that automatically drafts those posts and those articles into Notion. We have a human review process from there just to make sure the quality is there. It's something we actually want to push out, et cetera. But that whole process is actually automated, which means that we spend way less time like looking at the dashboards, thinking about what we should do, and a lot more time just approving the work that's already been 80% done for us. So that's that first use case. We also, Quentin actually is run point on a lot of this, but as part of running webinars, we do a bunch of work around it. Some of it you see, promoting posts and things like that on the front end, but there's a whole bunch of things in the back end that we also do. So things like turning the webinar content into a landing page that has all of the actual transcript and all the data so that this actually shows up to AEO, GEO, SEO as an example. Or maybe if we want to actually run results and understand, okay, programmatically, like how did the webinar do? How many people showed up? What was the webinar attendee numbers? Where did people come from? That analysis is just fully automated using Claude today. So just examples of like how we've sort of put a lot of the work that could take the work around a webinar from a couple hours to 10 hours plus. We've automated and shrunk all that down, so it's just running in the background. We also do use Claude to generate some LinkedIn post ideas. And this is interesting. It's not that we use Claude to generate the actual posts themselves, but one of the themes that we like to talk a lot about as a brand and as a company is just what is happening around the company? Like, what are people working on? Like, what are the cool highlights? And if you have access to Slack, you actually can get a lot of those nuggets sort of programmatically. So like what's happening in our gratitude channel where people are shouting each other out, like what features are launching, whatever it might be. But we actually have an agent that runs that looks through Slack and looks through all of our resources and says like, what are the things and the interesting nuggets that are happening around the company just to feed this bank of ideas. And then from there, what happens is, myself or Adara, on our team will actually scroll through those and be like, oh, like actually, like, this is a good idea. I like this a lot. But instead of having to rely on our own memory bank of everything that's happening, we're able to just do that programmatically and a lot more easily. So a few ideas that came out of the brainstorm that are also just things we've actually put into practice.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to check in on our lovable customer quotes down here too to see what happened. All right. Are
There we
these are
go.
these are these real customer quotes?
Those are, yeah.
And are these their actual photos?
They are. Yeah, I think they pulled it
Wow.
straight off our website.
Wow. Okay. And look, it scrolls.
There we go.
So a lot. Okay, hold on. We got to see what
Amazing.
happens in fun mode. Okay. It's pretty I don't know if we can read this, but this is pretty fun. All right. I feel good about what we generated in 15 minutes here. So, Quentin, I'm looking forward to seeing this go live next week.
Yeah, now there's no excuse really blocking this one from going live. So I need to run the calculations, but this is amazing.
Awesome, awesome. Okay. All right. I think there's still like a bunch of work to do with like another hour or two. You'd be all set. Okay. Well, we're wrapping up like on time, but Q&A, like any questions from anybody in the chat, anything we haven't covered, we've got 3 minutes left. So you've got your burning questions answered with this audience, if you have any questions. And if not, over here, I've got QR codes. If you want to follow my Substack, I talk a lot about AI and how that's changing go-to-market. And then you can follow me on LinkedIn for a lot of jokes. This week's jokes are about Bowser mode. So, why is Bowser the best Mario Kart player? And what does this have to do with the AI era? So, that's my teaser. All right. Oh, awesome. Thanks, Quinn. Okay. Eric says Lovable has gotten better. That's my last final tip before we go is tools get better weekly, monthly. They get better a lot faster than you anticipate. And so one thing is like if a tool was marginally useful to you before, you can always check back in and see if it's gotten better and if it's solved all those problems from the past. All right. Well, I don't know, Quentin, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, if there's no questions on the call, really appreciate everyone joining. Sarah, we appreciate you putting work into this. This has been amazing to see. All of the different use cases you showed, both here and in our private session, have just been so inspiring. So much but I think you give us great places just to get started. And I think to Austin's point from earlier, trying things and just getting away from all the noise and going to these tools is the best way to start.
Awesome. And I saw there's a few questions in the chat. You can DM me on LinkedIn, add me and send me a note if you have any more questions or anything else you want to talk about. So thanks everybody for joining this webinar.
Thanks so much for joining, Sarah. And huge plus one, everyone should follow Sarah because she writes a ton of great nuggets about what she's learning in real time. And I found them super helpful. So thanks for sharing them all with us.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.